Hi there. Welcome back to the show. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif Halaby and Jeff Girard. All right, we're talking about the pension, the looming pension crisis. Really, what that means is it's coming. Looming means it's around the corner. So I'm going to give you just a real quick primer, right, which is a little bit of a class on how the pension system works. It's made up of three components. How you can expect to get a paycheck when you are no longer working, right, for the money. In other words, you're making this and selling it. The company sells it for a higher profit. It pays you. So how can you be at home, traveling, whatever you're doing, and still receive a pension? Here's how. Number one is throughout the years, most employees that receive a pension are putting in their own money. 5% was the old days, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 today of their income. So if they earn $100,000 a year, they're putting in about $10,000 of their own money into the pension each and every year. And that's number one. Number two is the employer. So whether it's a city, county, state, private company like General Electric, General Motors, Disney, any company that still has a pension system, they take some of their profits and they put them in. And they put it into this bucket. So there's the employee, the employer, and interest. So in other words, the investment is supposed to make some money, and those extra profit, that interest that it's earned, is added to that bucket. So those three components is what's going to pay you as the employee when you retire. Now, here's the problem. When you have an employer that is a city, county, state, federal government, it doesn't have a product that it makes for $1 and sells for $2. It has taxes. When it has taxes, the only way it can make more money is not to make more widgets or sell more cars, because it's a government. It has to tax you more money. So it taxes everybody else. Now, when the employee puts in more money, if everything else is the same and the employee puts in more money, then the taxes will not be as high, right? Because it's a zero-sum game, right? Think of it like a triangle. All three sides have to put in the same amount to equal the same dollar figure. Except the interest earned when we had bad years in 2000, 2001, 2002, 3 years in a row of negative, and in 2007, 8, 9, during that period of time, we had some really bad years. What happened? The interest was not there. In fact, it was negative. So not only did they not earn money, but the money they had earned in previous years was gone, some of it. So today, they have to estimate. They've always estimated. We think we're going to make a 9% return. And if next year they made 10, right, made more money than they thought, they go to the cities, county, states, you guys put in less money. They never take it away from the employee. They say, you don't have to put in as much money, employer. However, they were wrong. They've been guessing wrong multiple times. I don't know if it's 8 out of the last 10 years or 10 out of the last 15, whatever the number is. They have guessed wrong, meaning they now are going to lower the interest. By lowering the interest that they're expecting to earn based on their formula, that means the city, county, states have to put in a lot more money. When they have to put in more money to still equal the total amount, guess who pays it? You. Income tax, usage fees, car registration, I don't know, parking violations, a bag tax. I mean, really? Do you realize how... when I travel a lot to other states, do you understand how incredibly backwards the rest of the country thinks California is, especially Los Angeles? I mean, you call it normal. I get it. I call it normal, right? I grew up here. This is my life. But the rest of the place go, wait a second. They charge you 10 cents for a bag? Where did the profits go when the grocery store used to buy those bags and it cost them money, and today they don't have to buy those bags? Where's the money go? So that gave the grocery stores more profit. And where does the 10 cents go? What political crony kept those dollars?
And we still have plastic bags available. So was it the environment or was it the money?
And I love it. People talk about the environment. I go, whoa, back up. Do you understand how many jobs are lost because you have some idea? You know how many times I use that plastic bag? You know how biodegradable and thin those things are these days?
They were.
And they say, well, landfills, air, da, da, da. And I remember seeing a study. This was in college. It's when the environmental movement was just beginning, and it was in one of my oceanography classes because I thought that was what I wanted to do for a while. And they were talking about the environment and all that. So one of the classes that we talked about, they said, we have 500 years of landfill space in the United States.
Wow.
If we continue to grow, not just stay the same, but grow at the rate that we're expecting. 500 years. Now, I don't know where the professor got that, number from, but 500 years. And this was not a conservative or right-wing professor. It was a liberal professor. So I get that we have things that we need to do, but understand, folks, these are jobs. These are people's livelihood. There's people that wanted to eat dinner. And now because of some idea, you took it away because we want to feel good. Most of the other country, the rest of the United States, they're like, oh, what's going on again?
I can't believe that's even a thing, plastic bags.
Yeah. So, I get it when Mrs. McKeon was running for state assembly. She was right on, man. That was the issue that I was right behind her on. I may not have been behind other issues, whatever she stood for or didn't stand for. That's not my question here. My point. It's she understood that that's a pain point for people because what a dumb idea it turned out to be. And now we're stuck with it. So who knows?
Well, we're talking about solutions here when it comes to this pension crisis or the looming pension crisis. I fear a few things. One is not only that this can happen, but that it sets a precedent for others to follow suit. We look at Illinois, and of course it makes the headlines. California is certainly a candidate for having a high default rate at some point, or at least the changes you're talking about, Arif. But some of the things that we can do as a person that's going to retire, whether it's in this state or somewhere else, or counting on a pension or some type of entitlement from this state or anywhere else for that matter, I think a few things are important. Number one is to never, ever rely on one source of income in retirement. I can't let the story you told me ever leave my mind about a client that you met with that was putting 100% of his faith in retirement into the California pension system.
Yeah,
I think it was Caltrans.
He was a Caltrans engineer. Met him at a mixer party thing or something. We were at a friend's house, and he was there. And I don't know, whatever we started talking about, he's like, "Oh yeah, all I'm doing is I'm counting on." Basically, he bought the biggest, most expensive house he could afford.
Yep.
Which of course goes up and down in value as real estate changes over the years.
Sure.
But his other, like you have to live and eat dinner at the same time. You can't. He goes, well, I'm going to sell my house. Well, that's nice, provided you time the market correctly.
Sure.
But his 100% was not investment property. It was not buying gold Cougarans. It wasn't buying annuities. It wasn't buying mutual funds or 401ks. It was nothing obscure, abstract, or real. It was truly the pension system for Caltrans. Now, I get it. We need roads and bridges, but how many of you have driven down the 5 freeway with all of the money, with all of the budget that Caltrans receives, and you tell me from the 210 freeway to the Valencia off-ramp, you can't fix the number 4 or number 5 lane, the far right lane? Really?
Well, let's talk about the transition at the 60 and the 10 and the 5.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
And then, of course, you have 14 years of environmental impact studies, and you get everybody under the sun to give a comment. I don't know. You guys, this is what you want. Unless you're going, and Jeff, you made a comment about a revolution. Of course, we're not talking about an armed revolution. Earlier you mentioned, look, we need a revolution. I think that's why President Trump was elected.
I think so too.
Right? Listen to people. They said, listen, we've heard enough of your baloney across the board. They threw out a lot of politicians. They disregarded a lot of noise that they heard from the same old, we got to come together, we have to work together, all that's the same stuff that everybody just says. And you hear somebody who uses words that kind of causes me, I know, and some of my friends to cringe. And yet at the same time, when the booth was closed, the gate, right, or whatever that's called, the curtain,
Right.
and you push the button, he won.
The voting did the talking.
I guess that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Outside, I have numerous friends who tell me, listen, if my wife knew I voted for President Trump, she would divorce me. I mean,
Sure. Yep.
so at home and behind the scenes, they were, oh yes, 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 and when the door closed, what did they do, right? I think you just have to see that.
And regardless of who's in office, a couple of things still hold true. When we're talking about pensions, your pension doesn't belong to you. There's a big bucket of dollars with your name on it, so to speak. And when you retire and you separate from service, this bucket of dollars, however it works, is supposed to pay you every single month. And Arif, you brought up a great point. You're entitled as the retiree to the next month's paycheck, not the bucket of dollars.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The pension has a system. So how do you protect? What are the solutions? Number one is, remember, you're entitled to the next paycheck. And then after that, you're entitled to a minimum amount. It's called the Pension Guarantee Benefit Corporation, PBGC, I think. Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, which gives you this. It gives you a minimum pension. I can't remember what the number is. I want to say, who cares if it's $4,000 a month? I think your minimum is $1,300 a month. There's some number. Think of it like the FDIC has a maximum, but there's a number that you receive, and it's a lot less than most people's pension. So you have to budget for that. The second thing I want you to do is, even when you are in retirement, you have to still save. Spending every single dollar that comes in as if next month it's going to be guaranteed to come in is not the best way to plan and prepare for yourself. It's understanding that even though money is coming in retirement, you still should be saving and setting aside money, because there are going to be rainy days, spikes, right? The reason we say rainy day fund is because if you were an outside construction worker or you were a farmer, you could not work on a rainy day. And when the rainy day came, because you were paid daily, you lost that day's wages. So you had to have money in case of a rainy day. And today, those rainy days could be medical deductibles, right?
That's
My
right.
deductible, I have to spend I have to spend almost $35,000 in the year before my health insurance makes sense for me to have health insurance.
Huh.
So do you really have health insurance? Or do you just have what we would have had before, which is called catastrophic? If you would have told me before, Arif, you're going to cover the first $35,000, then the insurance will pay, I would say, you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. That's too much money.
And now you have to buy it.
And now that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And they say, oh, well, that's the... So there are expenses to back up.
And then the other part with that is to look at multiple sources of income. And how do you do that? Well, if your company has a retirement plan other than the pension, meaning a defined contribution plan. That's the industry term for like a 401k, or if you're a teacher or you work at a research facility, a 403b. You might work for a government like we're talking about today, and you might have a 457 or some other type of deferred compensation. I really encourage you to put money into those plans. Whether your company matches your contributions or not, putting money into that plan does a couple of things for you. Number one, if you choose the pre-tax, which is what most people do, that means the money goes in before you're taxed for income, which is a really nice thing. The second thing is, it's an automatic savings for you, so you're really paying yourself first. And the third part, I think, which is wonderful in most of these cases, is something called ERISA. It's basically a plan that says that money can't be taken from you if your company goes out of business, if it files bankruptcy, if it has to restructure. Those dollars aren't affected as it would be with a pension, which is very important.
Yeah, and think of it like this, guys. The state of California has a system that's set up that has a pension system. It's basically a big bucket of dollars. Each employer negotiates with their employees through unions normally and says, if you work this many years, if you put in this much dollars, this is how much you're going to receive at the end. So some pensions are much more favorable to employees and some are less. San Diego tried a few years ago and started making some changes and got out of the pension system slowly and has created like a 401k type plan. Meaning, hey guys, you may have $1 million when you leave the city. After you're a police officer working for 25, 30 years, you have $1 million, but it's yours. You take it if you did really well, if you invest it well, if you do good things when you leave, then, man, you won even better probably than you would have. But if you didn't, if you blew it, like some of our clients will come to us and say, oh, I thought I needed, I wanted to give my kids, I wanted to pay for my daughter's student loans. I've heard everything under the sun. And you say, well, that's probably not a good idea because your daughter has 40 years left to work and you have 0. So let her work and you save your money and let her student loans be paid by her. If you want to help out of your income each and every month, great. But when you are a retiree, do not give chunks of dollars away to your children, grandchildren, spouse, anybody, because the chunk of dollars are designed to be a little machine that kicks out money every single month. It is not designed to take in chunks and lumps. Because if you do, the penalties, the taxes, the fees could be enormous. That's why you avoid that.
Well, and not to mention those dollars had a job to do, which is to produce income for you. I'll never forget when you said this, Arif, that once those dollars come out of the account, they're never, ever going to earn interest for you ever again. And you take a big lump off the top or a big swipe off the top of your retirement savings to go off and do whatever it is, paying for college. We've been hearing a lot of that lately, haven't we? People wanting to pay for student loans or help their kids pay off some of their student loan debt. Look, guys, Arif made a great point. They have years, they have decades to pay this off in payments. And once you get to retirement, that's the only thing that we found you can't really finance.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, food, shelter, clothing has to be paid for each and every month. Even if you're trying to use it in credit card debt, eventually you're going to have to pay for it. So be cautious about giving away those dollars. Usually, and here's the key, usually it's done out of a form of guilt because of a single mother, single father, I left your dad, I left your mom, that. Or it's done out of a form of guilt that says, I just didn't save enough, or when you were 10, we used your college fund, we promised we were going to pay it back, and we used it to buy a car, or because your dad got laid off, or because your mom was sick. So there's a guilt that we took that money, or there wasn't just ever enough there anyway. Do not make decisions out of guilt, financial decisions. You can make who you're going to have lunch with out of guilt, that's fine, but don't make financial decisions out of guilt. And when you are planning and preparing for yourself, remember, often in retirement, the way and the solution towards living a better life is to realize sometimes we spend money to answer a problem called loneliness or self-worth, and we will buy things and we will give things away. I can tell you countless stories of people that use money that they don't have to buy things to give them away because you get a little high, you get a sense of accomplishment out of it. But it's short-lived. And then eventually you have to do it again. So there is a machine that creates these dollars called your retirement account, and the purpose is to be there forever.
That's a big deal, and we're seeing a lot of people misuse those funds. Something else I wanted to touch on was, creating. I really want to bring some more emphasis to the multiple streams of income. We look at these pensions, and even Social Security makes up a large part of some people's retirement income. And with the way things are going, or where they could go, it's out of your control how much money you're going to get every month. Look, you worked, whether it was for 40 years or 50 years, and you contributed to these programs, and then there's a set dollar amount. You don't really control what else comes to you from that. What we are seeing, though, is people taking control of those pensions through the lump sum buyout. Some companies, some corporations, some municipalities are offering, because look, they know you're going to live a very long time. And that's the law of large numbers. It says we've hired people that are, actuaries, they're experts at knowing when we're going to die, and whether we have to raise that number or somebody miscalculated somewhere, someone is actually living longer than we anticipated. So what are they doing? They're saying, hey, remember that dollar amount we were going to give you each month? How about if we turn that into a lump sum? And we're seeing people take those and roll those over into individual retirement accounts and take control of their income. Because maybe you don't need $6,000 or $7,000 per month. Maybe you only need $4,000 or $5,000, and you want it to last longer. That's another option when it comes to some of the pensions out there.
Yeah, the idea of you being good at what you're good at and then trusting organizations that are good at what they do, right? You wouldn't go in and say, I'm going to rewire my home with electricity, right? That's deadly. It scares the daylights out of a lot of people. Or I'm going to put a new roof on my house because I watched a DIY video over the weekend. I'm going to put a new roof because the storm is coming. You also wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to manage my retirement account because I did it part-time in the evening while I was an engineer or a nurse or whatever your normal job was. So make sure you understand and trust the organizations, not just the individual. Because, look, the bottom line is most brokers do not daily manage or watch your money, and yet I have yet to watch or meet one of them. It is usually computers that do it, believe it or not. And so why are you paying an individual for what a computer does? Be very careful about that. Ask what are you doing. And if that broker says, oh, I manage and I watch it, go, so do you ever go to the restroom? Do you ever go and get something to eat? Do you ever take a vacation? Well, yeah. Well, then that means my money's not watched for that half an hour or 2 hour break or whatever it is that you're doing, right? Where's the money? Oh, well, you know, we have, So you watch, oh, wait, you let your friend, the other broker person, watch him? I need to interview that person to see if I like them and trust them.
Good point.
Does that mean they give less attention to my money because they're not being paid on it and more to that person's current brokerage accounts? So watch those conversations and make sure that if they are going to do it, then you certainly, if you buy something, you should receive it. But be careful so you're not walking that path of trusting the wrong group.
Well, and that's a huge deal, because didn't you just recently encounter someone that took a lump sum from their retirement, and they thought they had, what was the amount of money? I think 800 or 700,000, something like that, and they spent as though they had that forever.
That's right.
That's got to last you forever.
And I think one of them, one of the ladies that we had, she's down over $100,000.
Oh my gosh!
And she's making more money than she did when she worked. But remember, you have a lifetime of Saturdays. What do you do on a Saturday? That's probably what you're going to do in retirement. If you sit around, read a book, watch TV, if that is your Saturday, then that's probably what you're going to do in retirement, which means a bit more loneliness. You may not spend as much money unless you're going to try to answer that loneliness problem. So you need to have value in what you do. So the money has a purpose, but your purpose is not going to be related to money. We're going to answer some more solutions when we come back. Total financial solutions, safer money problems. You got them. You have them. We've got solutions. Your place for news, talk, and information. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Girard on AM 1220 KHTS. Hey, welcome back to the show. Total financial solutions, safer money hour. KHTS here. Look, your hometown station is about bringing ideas and concepts, really causing you to think. Because for a lot of people, you just go to work, you wake up, you do your thing. If it doesn't bother you at this exact moment, yeah, it's tomorrow. How many times do you not clean out the closet? Do you not clean up the backyard or the garage, right? Those things are in your face. They're right here, right now. And you still procrastinate or put it off till tomorrow or next month or next weekend. I want to encourage you to stop thinking short term. Wealthy people do not think short term. Successful people do not think short term. In other words, when I talk with somebody and they want to be successful and they talk about how much do you make per hour and what are you doing this weekend and what are you going to do tonight, that is ultra short term. Those goals and objectives have almost nothing to do with success, wealth, happiness. It's immediate, it's now. Because if you start thinking long term and planning, you can win. You can win by having multiple sources of income, just like Jeff was talking about. Your own retirement account. Maybe a pension if it's there or not. Maybe Social Security if it's there or not. Look at rental real estate, whether it's commercial or residential. Look at other sources of businesses, right? You can learn business on these computers today. Anybody at any time can learn to run any business. You're just not doing it because you don't have to. Because you sleep on your parents' couch or you let your kids sleep on your couch or their own bedroom, and right? Mm-hmm. So a little bit of that necessity is required to get up and get out of the world of, I don't know, scariness, right? Because eventually things are going to change.
And make sure if you're going to college or you're taking any type of higher education, I was really impressed with Ara Norwood, one of our previous guests. He teaches a class where he shows his students how to take a business and turn it into a business. It's not just a prototype or a model. They launch an online business. How practical is that? How wonderful is that? And it's not just for people that just graduated high school. You can be 35, 40, 50 years old if you want, 60, 70 years old, and take a class like that, something practical, and put it to use. That could be an extra source of income for you.
And that allows you and your young people, your kids, your family, your friends, an opportunity to, one, see success, but two, with all of that in life, it gives you a chance to actually have freedom. You forget the freedom does not come from an employer. What's the right word? The employer owning your health insurance. Like, think for just a second. When did it become the employer's job to cover your health insurance? When did it become the employer's job? They're good at making widgets, or being a law firm, or being a medical practice, or a manufacturing company. When did they also have to learn how to become your retirement planner? Right? Did you really want that person who works at that office, whoever, whether it's an HR director, or whether it's the secretary, or whether it's the owner's cousin, I don't know. Do you really want them telling you and giving you financial advice? Or building a retirement plan that's appropriate for you and your family? You're different than your neighbor, than your cousin, than your coworker. So don't just get into this stream of life and think you have 36 years left to work and wake up and believe that the employer will take care of you. They cannot, they will not, and they never do work in your best interest. Now, I don't think they work against you. I just think there's no way in the world they can have your best interest and her best interest and his and hers. They just can't. There's just too many people. So you have to take responsibility. You have to jump in and decide what's best for you and your family.
That's a great point. Always look for ways for you to take control of your financial life, and then you won't be disappointed in the future. Thanks
for joining us, guys. Listen, you can go to hometownstation.com, hometownstation.com. Click on Total Financial Solutions. You can shoot us an email. We're happy to answer those questions. Sometimes topics and other things come from you, our listeners, and we really appreciate that. We appreciate you staying with us through this hour of the program. I'm Arif Halaby, and that's Jeff Girard on your place for news, talk, and information. Your hometown station, KHTS.